Hello, everybody. Trust you're well. It's such a pleasure to be here again. This is September, the ninth month of the year, and it gives me such a great pleasure to welcome you once again to our mentoring live sessions. I hope that the month so far has been good. I hope that it started on a great note for you. It's been a creative season for me, particularly. I've been doing a lot of creative work in this season, and it's just been mind blowing what God can do with a yielded vessel. I hope that your year so far has been amazing as well. Remember when we came in here in January and we were setting our goals, we were setting our gaze on what it is that we wanted to do in year 2025, what we wanted this year to be for us. And I hope that you're taking stock of your progress as you move along the way. I hope you're finding the strength to show up, to continue to be the best version of yourself, to develop yourself, to sharpen the rough edges, which is what I call it, to continue to sharpen the rough edges and to make sure that you're giving your best to the world. You're showing up in the best version of yourself, all right? In the best version of yourself. I hope that that is what it is for you. And I hope that in this month of September, which is the month of birthing, the month where, is signified as a month where you really bring forth that which you've been incubating. I'm trusting that God will give you more grace. I'm trusting that God will give you the courage and the resilience and the resources, everything that you need to be able to bring forth that which you have been incubating since the beginning of the year. That's my prayer for you. That's my desire for you. I hope that you're able to really, stick in there and keep working on what it is that has been laid on your heart to do this year. All right. So, welcome you once again to this live session today. This particular edition or session, we're going to be talking about leading from within. Leading from within. We're all, on the journey of becoming better versions of ourselves. But becoming better version of ourselves is not just for our own good, it's also to be able to serve others, is to be a resource, to be a valuable resource for other people, people that people can look up to as role models in the society. And so, for you to be a role model in the society, for you to be someone that people want to pattern their lives after, for you to be that person that people are inspired by, your life making an impact and influencing other people to choose to live their lives a certain way, a way that glorifies God, obviously, and a way that adds value to society and makes them responsible human beings, right? For you to be that person that people will look up to in that manner, it means that you first have to lead yourself. Before you can say you want to lead anyone, you first have to lead yourself. Just drop in the chat for me if you're here, if you can hear me loud or clear, and if what I'm saying is resonating, whatever points are resonating, drop it in the chat. I just want to get a sense of, what's coming live for you, what light bulb moments you're getting from the conversation we're having today. And for many more people that will watch the replay after, feel free to drop whatever it is that is resonating with you, that is coming alive in your heart, as we share today. So, the journey that we're on, our journey of personal growth, our journey of development, is not only just about us, it's about a journey that matures us, that makes us better versions of ourselves, so that we can not only be of value to ourselves and our immediate family, but also be of value to other people, to the larger community, and to the people that we're responsible for, or to the people that look up to us. Whether you have direct mentees or not, I can tell you that there are people that are looking up to you. Your younger siblings, for instance, are looking up to you. Your junior colleagues in the office, people that you're responsible for supervising or managing, as it were, are looking up to you. So whether you choose to be a leader or not, you are inadvertently, by reason of the roles that you play in the lives of people, right, and the positions that you occupy in society, whether in your career, your business, your family, you are leading. Whether you like it or not, you are leading, right? Even for those of you that have children, your children are also looking up to you. There's something that I often tell myself, that when my children are being asked who their role models are, I want them to be able to say, my mother is my role model, or at least is one of my role models. And the reason is not because I just want to lord myself over them. It is because I've been able to live my life in a way that is worthy of emulation. I want to be able to live my life in a way that they look at me and they say, you know what, mommy, I want to replicate much more than the results that you've been able to do. You've been able to so pattern your life. You've given us, the blueprint of how to be a responsible human being and how to do so much good in the world, that I also want to do so much good just because, I've been able to observe what it is that you've been able to do and how you've impacted other people's lives. So for me, leadership is not so much about me wanting to um, be in the faces of other people, or dominate people, or just be popular or famous for anything. I'm starting with first myself and then my immediate environment. I usually say that, the true test of leadership is from the family. If you've not been able to lead yourself, if you've not been able to lead your family, you shouldn't even be thinking of leading other people out there. And because we're privileged to occupy positions that put us in direct leadership, whether we even ask for it or not, then we are responsible for developing ourselves as leaders. And that's why this conversation is very important today. So, today we're going to be talking about leading from within, developing the character that shapes generations after you. The conversation is about being able to look beyond yourself and look at other generations that are coming after you, and asking yourself how your character, how your behavior, how all the things you do, your decisions are shaping or influencing the next generation. So that's the conversation today. That's the conversation today. So we're going deeper into leadership, that real, authentic leadership, the kind that shapes families, the kind that shapes businesses, the kind that shapes nations and generations. And it starts not with titles or positions, okay? It starts with you, who you are on the inside. It starts with your awareness of who you are, the brilliance that you've got, okay, the talent, the gifts, and everything that you've been endowed with to add value to other people. It starts with that. Okay, it starts with that. Now think about people who have influenced your life the most. Just drop them in the chat. Who are the people? Just casting your mind back and just thinking, as far back as 10, 20, 30 years ago, depending on how old you are, right? Who are the people that have influenced your life the most? People that you look back and you'll be like, thank God for this person. If not for this person in my life, I wouldn't have been this way or that way. Or this person influenced me to make a pivotal decision in my life that placed me on a journey of purpose, or helped me to discover myself in this way or that way, or helped me to enhance my skill and become a better version of myself, or become a more valuable person. I wanted to drop that in the chat. Look, you know, um, look behind you and just think, who are these people? Who has influenced your life the most? Now, when you are able to identify at least one, two, three people, I want you to reflect again. Was it their money, or their job title, or their character that influenced you? What exactly about them influenced you? What exactly? I want you to narrow down, because if you do this self reflection, it helps you to also begin to look at yourself to say, if this was the thing that influenced me about somebody, or somebody else had, and I felt like I was influenced by it, right? Do I have that same thing as well? Right? So after your reflection, just think about it. More often than not, more often than not, in many cases, it was their values. In many cases, it was their resilience. In many cases, it was their courage. In many cases, it was their consistency. Okay? It was the way they embodied the values that shaped them and made them become who they are. So you and I know that In a world where leadership often gets confused with positions, with money, with social media influence, true leadership really, really, really does not start with what you have on your Instagram bio or your LinkedIn title or any of that. True leadership starts with you. True leadership flows from your character, not just your title, not who you claim to be, not your personal brand that you're building, you know, nicely curated Instagram bio or whatever it is. No, leadership flows from character. Leadership flows from character, not titles, not titles at all. Okay, let's talk about the story in the Bible about David. David was a shepherd boy when God picked him up as king. He was not yet made, as it were. He didn't have the razzmatazz or the charisma or whatever, of a king. He was a shepherd boy when God picked him. Why do you think God picked him? It was not about his looks. It was not about his resume. It was about his heart. His heart, his heart, his heart. If you go and read the book of 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 7, it was about his heart towards God. So leadership begins on the inside, long before it even begins to show outside, long before people begin to recognize it on the outside. Leadership starts from the inside. That is why we're having this conversation today. You have to know how to lead yourself before you can begin to think of leading others. So the key thing to note here is that we don't lead from what is on our resume, from all the accolades that we've been given, all the awards that we've been given. We lead from what is on the inside of us, from our hearts. So now, why does leading from inside, leading from within, why does it matter? Why does it matter? Number one, it matters because self-awareness is the foundation. If you don't know yourself, how do you know what about you that is influencing other people or is triggering other people negatively? Leadership starts from self awareness, and that is the foundation. You can't lead others if you don't even understand your own strengths. You can't lead others if you don't know your weaknesses. You can't lead others when you don't know what triggers you. You can't lead others when you don't know your values. No, you can't. Self awareness. For me personally, on my journey, one of the things that I discovered on my journey of self awareness is the fact that I'm a driven person. I'm self driven. I don't need a lot of motivation to get stuff done, to be honest, except I don't believe in that thing. If I believe in that thing, I'm self motivated, I'm self driven. It didn't start from now, it started from way back, as far as I can remember, maybe age 10, 12. Driven by my resolve to contribute something meaningful in this world, to become a person, who also adds value to society. Do you see? I didn't just want to be another number. Do you understand? I wanted to be someone, who is valuable enough to be able to add value to other people. So I decided by myself that number one, diligence was a watchword for me. Hard work. There were things that were non-negotiable for me that I understood, at least at the time, that I began to live my life by as old as, or as young rather, as 12 years. I remember a conversation I was having with my husband the other day, and I was telling him, that, there was this conversation I was having with this guy who used to, have a store very close to where my mom's store was, and we're just having this conversation. And I remember that I was clearly just, I couldn't be more than age 12 at that time. And, very close to our store, then we had this brothel, right? That was very close. And you have all these prostitutes always come out from that place. This person I was having this conversation with was what we used to call chemist. Those people that used to sell drugs and then sell skincare products and stuff, just selling all manner of things. So these girls will always come to that guy's store to buy stuff. And I remember the guy having a conversation with me at the time where he was saying to me that, oh, that when I grow old, that I should never use, all those bleaching creams, that I should never use it on my skin. That even though he is selling it, he knows that it's not good for the skin, that I should never use it. And it was just from his own, what he knew, right? Just trying to advise me at the time. And I was just smiling because I said to him, I said, I'm not going to need to use a bleaching cream. I know I'm beautiful, and God is going to bless me enough that the money will reflect on my skin and I will not need to use bleaching cream to look beautiful. I told him that I said, I'm going to be wealthy. This was age 12. I told him that I'm going to work hard. I'm going to do what I need to do to make sure that I'm wealthy. This was me at age 12. I didn't know much at the time. I think maybe I was in GSS 3 or something, right? At this time that I was having this conversation with this guy. It was a resolve that I made within me, within myself, that I will not replicate what I see around me. I will not replicate the poverty, the decadence that I see around me. I'm going to choose who I want to be. I'm going to be chaste until marriage. That was a decision I made by myself. Nobody told me. I got married as a virgin. Yes. And I got married at age 27. Yes. Now, that was a personal decision that I made, not that somebody told me to do that. So I'm saying that self awareness is important. Another thing that I realized about myself by reason of my self awareness is also the fact that I can be so driven that if care is not taken, I'm oblivious of the fact that people that I'm leading don't have that level of drive. And so something that I find easy to do because I'm just naturally driven, it's a bit of a Herculean task for them. It's a bit of a mountain to climb for them. And so the way I can wake up in the night and get work done, not because anybody is chasing me, may not be how the people that I lead get their work done. I remember I was talking to somebody, I don't know who it was that I was talking to. And I said, to the person, okay, I remember who it is now. And I was saying to the person that there was a time in my life when I was at work. I think I had newly become pregnant with my first child at the time, and I was having a very rough time. The first trimester was very rough for me, always throwing up, always spitting, lost my appetite. It was very, 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 very traumatic, right? And I remember that I was on a particular audit engagement of one of the top insurance companies at the time. And we were due to, deliver their financial statement because they needed to meet up with the deadline to go to NICOM. NICOM is a regulator, to go and submit their financial statement. And this was one of the days where I had my episode right in the office where I was throwing up badly. But I needed to submit the financial statement to my manager for review that night. Do you know that I couldn't go home? I sat with it. I would go to the bathroom, do the thing, and then wash my face, and then just calm down for like 5, 10 minutes. And then I went back to the work. I couldn't even call my manager to say, I'm not really feeling well. And now I'm not saying that that is, a thing for anybody to do. If you feel unwell and you feel like you're not up to it, please, by all means, do the necessary things that you need to do. But I'm just sharing my experience of how driven I was to achieve a result and not let that result slip because of I'm not feeling too well. And I felt like because of that, everything else has to wait, or this thing has to wait. That was how much driven I was, or I am. Do you see? So, one of the things that I recognize about myself is self awareness in the fact that I needed to also find a way to give people some slack, to give people some grace, that they may not necessarily be like me, but just know that this thing that I have is a strength. And for another person, it may not necessarily be their strength as well, but to encourage them, to challenge them, to grow them. I remember there was a guy on that particular engagement with me who felt like I was hard on him, who felt like, I was on his case, who felt like I was pushing him to really do things, with excellence, with quality and all that. And at the time, he didn't understand it. Do you know that when he left that particular engagement and he went to another engagement, in fact, maybe two engagements after, he sent me a note after they did the yearly evaluation, performance evaluation, and he emerged tops. And they were telling him how, his writing skills was top notch, how he was able to articulate his thoughts very well on paper, do his documentation with quality and excellence. And he wrote me a note. He said, I don't know what he used to call me that time. Is it AB? He used to call me that time. He said, AB, you taught me everything I know. I owe this to you. Do you know that that guy, even after I left KPMG, he continued to follow my work. He said, Biola, you're my mentor. I will follow you everything you go. The guy literally took the steps that I took in my career. It was almost as though he took my career journey as a blueprint and he followed that same blueprint. I left KPMG as a manager to become a group CFO. By the time he was leaving KPMG as well, he went to become a CFO of a financial institution. I left, that whole whatever and started to work in a family, family owned conglomerate or enterprise. He also follows similar patterns, more like whether I like it or not, my life is influencing somebody. I'm not saying I want to influence him. I'm not even in direct. I mean, we haven't spoken now in like maybe 6 months. But whether you like it or not, somebody is looking at you, somebody is watching you, someone wants to pattern their lives after you, somebody is desiring the same results that you have. And that's leadership already. And you are not in close proximity with them. They're just looking at you and they see your result and they want the same type of result. So I'm sharing this with you to let you know that, see, this thing starts with self-awareness. You need to know your strengths and how you're leveraging your strengths. You need to know your weakness. You need to know your triggers. You need to know the things that you value as a person. If I take you again into the Bible, I remember Moses. Moses had a great calling, fantastic guy. But guess what? He struggled with anger. Anger was a weakness, and that particular flaw cost him his entry into the promised land. For those of you that are Christians, I know you know that story. All right? You know, leadership rises and falls on character. Leadership rises and falls on character. Someone is asking, how does one build this drive if this is not something that comes naturally to you? For me, you need to find a compelling vision. I also didn't develop that drive just because maybe I had it naturally, but I think that events around me, external factors around me also propelled me to hone into that drive. So let me give you context. As a child growing up, I was the first of, 4 children. And what that meant also was that I naturally assumed leadership just by reason of the fact that I'm a first child. So I'm the one that is always taking care of my siblings, right? My parents are going out, they tell me, look after your siblings. So whether I like it or not, I look after my siblings. If they did anything wrong, chances are I'm the one that will be beaten or disciplined before they even discipline the person that did anything wrong, because they will tell me, you are supposed to know better. So because of that, I took responsibility ahead of time to make sure that other people behaved well. And this was as low as maybe from age 8 or 10. I remember a time when I was about age 10, my mom was critically ill. Critically ill that she couldn't do anything by herself, let alone even cooking for us. I started cooking for the entire house at age 10. I had to mature quickly. You understand? I remember the first time I cooked beans. I cooked beans, the beans that you mix with oil. I cooked beans because the way we used to cook white beans when we wanted to eat rice and beans was that we'll cook the beans separately, we'll cook the rice separately. And when we cook the beans, when we're done with the beans, we'll drain the water, right, from the beans and then keep it aside and then cook the rice. That's how I knew or I observed that we used to cook beans, right? But that one that you mix with oil, you add pepper and seasoning and all of those sort whatever. That was what I wanted to cook that day. But because I thought that you always would drain water out of beans when you're doing your mixed beans, you also have to do that. I did that, in cooking mixed beans. I didn't know that you would add pepper, seasoning, and all of those things. So I just cooked the beans as we used to cook it, and then drained the water, and then just added palm oil, and the thing just tasted very funny. I remember the other day too, I wanted to make amala. Amala is a staple food in Nigeria that you make from yam flour, right? I know that my mom used to make it, and on those occasions when my mom was ill, she wanted amala, and I'm like, I can make it. And that was how I got into the kitchen. I was doing this catering practical. The thing came out, it looked like pap because it was so watery, you couldn't even mold it into any shape or form, right? But those were my journey of stepping up, into things that I didn't even think that I was old enough to do, but the demand of the situation meant that I stepped into it regardless. I also, look back and I realized that growing up, I also didn't like a lot of the things that I saw around me. I saw that we were more like better off than most people that were around us. I saw a lot of poverty around us. You know, there was one person in my father's family who was like the rich person, and the person lived in Lagos at the time, and she was a pharmacist. Her husband was a doctor. So they have their own practice. And I had come to Lagos, I think once or twice, on vacation. They live in a very big apartment, 4 or 5 story building built by them, by the husband and wife. So it was just their own building, and they were doing all their business. The hospital was there, the pharmacy was there. The wife also had other outlets around Lagos. And I just saw that, man, these guys are successful. And in my young mind, then I felt like, okay, if you're going to be successful, that means you have to be in science class, you have to study medicine or pharmacy. That was the way I interpreted it to myself at the time, because I looked at everyone around me, and they were my own definition of success. That's all I can say. They were the people that I saw that were successful. Whenever they were coming home, the whole family would be, running helter skelter. My mom would go and bring, all those dishes that she brings out once a year. She would bring it out. That's what we used to serve them, and all of those paparazzi. So I'm like, okay, what is it about these people? Okay, they are successful. All right, they are wealthy. They have money. Okay, if I'm going to be like that, then maybe I should also study medicine. And that was where my passion for, okay, let's study medicine came from. So I knew from my GSS class that I was going into science class. Why? Influence. Why? I saw something that I wanted, that I desired as a child. And I thought, okay, people that study medicine, they're usually very, very studious. Like, I hear medicine is tough. So I have to really be hardworking. I have to have my A's. Another thing I saw around me was, I looked at my family, to my father's side, to my mother's side, and I realized that nobody in both families made their A levels in one city. Everybody that I knew, uncles, aunties, many of them struggled before they entered university or the polytechnic. Many of them wrote their exams like 2, 3 times before they got their papers together and they were able to proceed to higher institution, including this, my supposed successful auntie that I knew. She also wrote hers maybe twice. And I told myself, I'm going to break this record. Is it not possible that one can write this exam, write your WAEC, your SS, your GCE, and your JAM, write it once and make it to university? I made that a personal challenge. Nobody asked me. Nobody demanded it from me. If I had made my result 2 or 3 times, it would have just followed the norm. People would have even encouraged me that, this thing happens. That's how it happened to Auntie Ronke and then Uncle Joseph. And so you too, just put in the effort, and just people will be giving me those kind of advice, and it would just be normal. It would just be normal. It wouldn't be anything that anyone was called me about, because it was just a norm around me. But guess what? I wanted to break that record. And so I did. I did my WAEC. I had 7 distinctions and 2 credits. Wrote GCE the same year. I had 6 distinctions, 3 credits. Wrote JAM the same year. Cleared my JAM. Same year. Now, what did that take from me? My situation did not change at home. The situation around how I prepared myself to pass these exams did not change. There were days where I studied for the most part with candle or with lantern. Those of you that know what lantern looks like, yes, kerosene lamp. That was what I studied with for the most part, and I studied into the night. There were days I would put my leg inside water and put towel inside water and wrap it around my head so that I would not sleep. I did those things. Nobody really asked me. So you're asking, where did the drive come from? I caught a compelling vision. A vision that was so compelling, personal vision, so compelling that I figured that I needed to do certain things to be able to achieve that thing. So if you're going to have that level of drive. You have to catch a vision that is so compelling that you will not need anybody to wake you up in the night to get to work on it. Something must, there must be something you want that is so important to you that gets you to wake up every morning, that wakes you up every morning. That there are days where you would even feel like, you know what, I'm just tired, let me just not do anything today. But when you remember that thing, the strength will just come from nowhere. And then it helps you to keep trudging on and keep going on. Those are just very few examples that I can share with you of how I developed the drive. So the drive for me came from when I was young, when I observed the things around me and I said, you know what? I'm going to change my own story. My own story is going to be different. And interestingly, back to that story of whether I studied medicine or not, I eventually didn't study medicine. But guess what? I had built capacity to be able to study at the level of a medical student, the rigor that I believe that I would need to put into studying medicine. I had built that capacity. That eventually, even though I didn't study medicine, I went into another line that was also equally very demanding. I went in on the journey of, becoming a finance person. I was studying accounting professional exams, which was ICANN in Lagos, in Nigeria. I was doing that while I was doing my bachelor's. Imagine doing the two at the same time. For those of you that understand what that can mean. And at the same time, I was also this enterprising girl. I had a small trading business in school. I was selling makeup products. So all those foreign makeup products, Mary Kay, Olay, Black Opal, Maybelline, just name them, just name them. I had all of those things. Had my plug of how I got those products, and I was living within a university environment. I was in the university at the same time, at the time, and I was also worshiping at Winners Chapel. So I had close proximity to Covenant University. So I was selling them to Covenant University students, and I was also selling them in my school and all that. So I had that business going on. Along the way, I started selling lingerie for ladies, underwears. So I knew where to get it in Lagos Island. I was selling Italian shoes. I would go as far as traveling to Cotonou to go and get all these Italian shoes. This was me in the university. Now, what drove me to do that? We've moved from leadership. We're talking about this drive. Don't worry, we're coming back. So I'm just trying to show you how I developed my drive. One of the things that birthed that entrepreneurial spirit in me was also the fact that, remember that poverty I talked about? The allowance I was getting in school, I think my parents were sending me 5,000 naira as my monthly allowance then back in the school. And the truth is that before it is middle of the month, the money is gone. Like by the time I remove money to just buy some things, food and what, and the things that I'm going to need, my personal effect, and then transportation to and back from school, the money had gone. So I kept borrowing money from my friends. So someday I told myself, no, this cannot continue. I can't be this person that always borrow money. And then by the time I'm borrowing money, I will have borrowed like half of the allowance that is coming. So when the money comes, I will use half of the money to pay what I borrowed. And then the remaining half will only tag me over a week or two. And then we are back to square one again. I told myself again, I needed to change this story. So my parents couldn't send me any more money. I was not about to start looking for boys to give me money and be doing nonsense around. So I asked myself, what do I have? What can I do? I saw a friend of mine whose sister was in the US, and her sister used to send stuff home, and she used to sell those things. So I just walked up to her one day. I said, you know what? Can I help you to sell some of these things? I can mark it up, sell it, take my own margin, and return your money. And she was happy. So she gave me kitchen utensils, kitchen appliances, things like hot pots, hair dryer, just hot comb, different things. And then part of it were also these makeup products. And that was how my eyes opened to makeup products. I was not the type of person that even used to wear makeup at the time. I was like your SU, very small stud earrings, no makeup, nothing. I was just, that kind of girl. Right. But, she gave me the makeup to sell, and I took some of them and I actually sold them. So I'm like, oh, okay, I can actually sell this thing. And so when her stock ran out, she said, oh, her sister hadn't sent more, but I needed money. So I began to look for where to buy these things, and that was how I discovered somewhere called Aspamda. For those of you that are in Lagos, you probably know a trade fair, which was not too far from my school. So I would take a bus ride there, and I went there to look for where people that imported this product, and that was how I started buying this product. I remember there was a day, when I started the business, my father had sent my usual 5K allowance. So I just took the money and I went to that place, went to trade fair and used everything literally to buy product. And then I came home. I came to the hostel, and then I was moving from room to room to room, selling my product. Do you know that within a space of 3 days, I had exhausted my stock and I went back and I kept turning it over and over. Within 3 weeks, I had turned 3 weeks. I'm telling you, within 3 weeks, my 5K had become 35K. Unbelievable. Like I would sell everything and then take the money and buy again. And like that. My 5K had become 35K in my hand. That was how I started business. So again, how did I develop this drive? It was catching a compelling vision around the fact that, you know what, I can create the money that I need. So this was me that was busy from every sense of busy as a student. But I needed to crack the code of poverty. And I didn't want to do what, is unlawful. Do you understand? I didn't want to compromise my values, right? And the things that I stood for as a person. And I didn't also want to put extra pressure on my parents. So I needed to solve for it. And that was how I did that. So I was running this, my little business. Do you know that by the time I left school, I had saved as much as 500K? This was 2006, 2007-ish. Yeah. And I started investing in the stock market. But in fact, I started investing in the stock market from 2005. That was when I started buying shares in the stock market. Yes. Money that I made from this little business that I'm talking about. So when I'm talking to people about building wealth, don't be today. Oh, that's like how many years ago now? 20 what years ago? Is it 20 years now? Yeah. That I started my investing journey from a student that was making side money from selling stuff. That is as far back as my journey. So I I have workings. I can show workings. So I digress. Let's go back to this conversation about leadership. My point is that know yourself, know your strengths, know your weaknesses, know your triggers, know your values, know what you stand for, know what is important to you. If you know your weakness, you are able to manage it, and you can even recruit accountability partners to help you. If you feel like this anger is a problem, just recruit somebody to say, every time I'm going off, just remind me that I'm going off. I should calm down. You understand? Or just find a mechanism that helps you to manage yourself. If you know about Nelson Mandela, I'm sure many of you, of course, know him. You've read his story. His ability to forgive, despite 27 years in prison, reshaped South Africa today. He did not just lead politically, he led from within with character. That's the conversation we're having today, with character. So, what I want you to reflect on is, what is one personal weakness that you know you need to work on before it works against you in your future? It's also part of self-awareness as a leader. Knowing that thing that you know that if I carry on like this, if this thing continues to plague me like this can be a showstopper in the future. Itemize it. Just put it down. Write it down in your note and note it and begin to think of what you're going to do about it. All right? So, leadership is character before competence. Leadership is character before competence. You can have all the skills in the world, all the skills. You can be the most skilled person, but without character, you will collapse under pressure. You will collapse under pressure, right? Think about Saul in the Bible. Saul was Israel's first king. He had the height, he had the charisma, he had the power, he had everything, he had the looks, he had everything. But what he lacked was inner character to obey God. And his reign ended in shame. His reign ended in shame. Remember, in that part of the Bible where, people were singing about David, and talking about the feat that David had achieved and was comparing him to Saul. His reign ended in shame. Now contrast him with David. Although David was also imperfect, but the one thing that stood him out and made him a man that God even, loved so much was because his heart was after God. His character made him a shepherd of nations, not just a shepherd of a flock of sheep. His heart. That's why leadership starts from within, starts from your character. And self awareness is the foundation. Like I said, you can't lead anybody if you don't know yourself. Know your strength, know your weakness, understand your triggers, recognize your blind spots. Your blind spots. Recognize your blind spots. Very important. Now, I'm going to share with you 4 traits of character that shapes leaders that shape generations. Leaders that are able to influence the next generation and influence them positively. The first character trait that is important for you to develop and be mindful of is integrity. Integrity. Integrity is your anchor of trust. It's the basis upon which people can trust you. Integrity. Who you are when nobody is watching. That is integrity. Integrity means being the same person that you are in public, being that same person in private. Being that same person in private. Think about the story of Joseph in the Bible. Joseph resisted temptation in Potiphar's house. He chose integrity over instant pleasure, and he preserved his destiny by that action. Integrity. Not that you are this person because everybody is looking at you, and then when you go into your inner core, you do something else because people cannot see you. All right? An example that we can also relate with is someone like Oprah Winfrey, who built her career on credibility and consistency. And she was able to turn her authenticity to influence. Her authenticity. She lost her job at some point, and that was what led to us, owning our own platform. And the reason she lost her job at the time was because she was empathizing when she was sharing stories. She was just supposed to be sharing stories or, reading news and anchoring programs. But the empathy that she felt always came through. So sometimes she will break down when she's sharing maybe a sad news or she's just connecting with somebody's struggle. And she would, her authenticity just came to play in the way that she handled things, and they thought that she was not professional. And that was how she lost that job. But guess what? That same authenticity led her to start her own platform, and that blew everything up to make her a global influence, a global icon. If you cut corners now, you will cut corners even when the stakes are higher. That's the truth. That's the truth. The same thing that I say to people in terms of if you're not able to save when you're earning 100, when you earn 1,000, you still not be able to save. Yes, because it's a muscle that you develop. Same thing with integrity. If you cut corners when you are still little, when you are still junior, you will cut corners when you are in a senior position as well. Okay? Joseph in Potiphar's house said no to compromise, and that decision preserved his destiny. The takeaway here is the fact that trust is earned in drops, daily decisions, things that you choose not to do and things that you choose to do. Trust is earned by daily decisions, but it can be lost in buckets. It can be lost in buckets. Number 2 core trait that you need to develop, if you need to develop your leadership from within, become the leader that has character, is discipline. Discipline is the builder of destiny. Small daily choices that build big futures. Discipline. Discipline is doing what needs to be done, even when it is not convenient. That is discipline. Discipline is not giving excuses, not being that person that is given to excuses. Discipline. The reason you couldn't read, the book that you committed to read, the reason you couldn't study, the reason you couldn't show up when you said you were going to show up. Discipline, the reason you couldn't go on your workout. You said this year that your health was important and you were going to discipline yourself around food, the kind of food that you eat. But when you see the things that you know you're not supposed to eat, you just feel like, oh, I just can't help myself. No, you don't have discipline. That's what it means. You said you were going to work out 30 minutes per day or 15 minutes per day. You couldn't stay, true to that. You said you were going to journal and develop, a relationship with yourself, or cultivate a better relationship with God by reading the Bible every day, maybe for 15 minutes or whatever commitment you made to yourself. If you've not been able to uphold that commitment, it is because of lack of discipline. And it's small daily choices. It's not the big things. Small daily choices. It is in choosing to save when others are spending. Yes. It is in choosing to study when others are scrolling on, TikTok and Instagram. It is in choosing to pray when others are sleeping. Do you see? It's in the little things, everyday things. Serena Williams practiced relentlessly with years of discipline, of practice, of sacrifice, made her the greatest in tennis that we've seen, not just talent. There's something I tell my children, especially my young artists. I say to her, talent will not take you far. Discipline will take you far. I say, even though you're talented, if you don't add discipline to it, you won't go far with that talent. Someone that is 100% undisciplined and even maybe 10% has 10% of the talent that you have, that person will beat you to it because you have talent, but you don't have discipline. Discipline beats talent every time. And that's why I'm telling you the story of, or giving you the example of Serena Williams. She had talent, but she had to add discipline to it, and that's what distinguished her in the game of tennis. Her discipline turned her talent to greatness. Think about Daniel. You know that story where he decided not to eat of the king's table, himself and his friends. He disciplined himself with prayer and diet, and God honored him. God honored him with wisdom and influence. What have you made a commitment to that you are falling short on when it comes to discipline? Discipline is skipping the impulse to binge on Netflix when you promised yourself to work on your side hustle. Yes. Success is hidden in daily habits. I can tell you that for free. Success is hidden in daily habits. The third core trait that you need to develop as a leader that is building character is humility and teachability. Ability to be open to teaching, ability to be open to growth, to stay open to growth. That is your gateway to growth. Being humble, being teachable, remaining teachable no matter what you think you know, remaining open, remaining teachable. Pride closes doors. You feel you know it. It closes doors, it shuts doors. But humility opens them and keeps them open as long as you keep learning. When Solomon asked God in the Bible for wisdom, he asked God for wisdom, not wealth. That humility to admit that he needed help actually gave him both wisdom and prosperity. So the moment you stop learning, you start declining. The moment you feel like you've arrived, you know everything, that's the moment you start dying. When I say death, I don't mean physical death like death, but you start dying in terms of your ability to continue to learn and grow and become more. So stay teachable no matter how high you rise. Stay teachable. Today I learn from young people, especially with this age of AI, this one, that one. I remain, teach me. In fact, I'm not ashamed to say this one is not my area. I know my area and I stand properly as an expert in that. But the one that I don't know, I'm not ashamed to say I don't know it. Stay teachable no matter how high you rise. The fourth core trait that I'm going to share with you is courage. Courage. Courage is choosing conviction over comfort. Leadership sometimes may mean that you're standing alone. Okay? Leadership sometimes can mean that you are a lone voice among many. You're not going with popular culture. You're not going with the norm. You're choosing to do things differently. Sometimes that's what leadership demands from you. And sometimes it can be lonely. Yeah. True leadership requires courage. It requires standing alone if necessary. And you need to develop the capacity to handle that. Okay? You need to wean yourself from the need to please others, the need to go with the flow, the need to be popular or to follow the popular opinion. Think about Esther in the Bible. She risked her life before the king to save her people. Courage turned her to a deliverer, just like that. She was able to deliver a generation from being wiped out. There's this person as well. I think she's in South Africa, Malala Yousafzai or something. I don't know how to pronounce her name properly. She stood for girls' education against extremists, right? She kept speaking out, and that courage sparked global movement. So, courage, Pakistan, okay, thank you very much. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is you acting in spite of the fear. In spite of the fear. So you can be afraid. It's okay to be afraid. But you will hold the fear in your hand and you say, yes, I know I'm afraid. But regardless, we move. You do the things that you are convinced, you have conviction about. You stand with it and you do it. So how do you lead across generation? How do you lead the next generation? It's by balancing values and innovation. Families, nations are shaped by leaders who balance honoring tradition, honoring the values of, the older generation while also driving change. When Joshua in the Bible inherited Moses' values, right? And he took on the mantle, okay, to lead Israel. He led, he took the assignment. He took on the assignment from Moses. And he had to lead differently anyway. He had to leave leveraging his own leadership capabilities into the promised land. But guess what? He still inherited Moses' value. So he didn't discard the things that he learned from Moses. He inherited those values, but he had to lead Israel differently into the promised land. So it's by understanding that mix. And that's why we look up to mentors, we look up to sponsors, we look up to people that are ahead of us. We're drawing their values, but we're also mixing that up with innovation and our authentic self. You're not trying to copy me, for instance, and be like me. But you can take some values that I have that resonate with you, and then you add that to what you have. And it means that you will lead differently from how I will lead. But guess what? That makes you an authentic leader. Your job is not to reject the past, but to build on it with innovation. You are the bridge. You are the bridge. Your parents' sacrifices brought you this far. Your discipline, your vision, your character will determine if the next generation will rise or they will fall. So if you think about it with that level of responsibility, you will probably do differently or make decisions that are able to really stand by. When you think about families, great families like the Henry Ford family, the Henry Ford himself had the vision that birthed the company Ford, the Ford company. But it was the successive generations that came after with professionalized governance that actually kept that vision alive and became the fort that we know today. Perhaps maybe that vision will have died, if the generation that came after couldn't plug into the vision that their great grandfather had and keep it alive, even though they're doing things a bit differently today. So you are the bridge between the older generation and the generation that is coming after you. The future belongs to those who can preserve those values while embracing change as much as possible. So, as we begin to wrap up this conversation, and please feel free to drop any question that you may have so that I can take them in the course of, my conclusion. What are the practical steps that you need to take to be able to start leading from within? Number one, practice self-reflection. You don't get to know yourself by just sleeping and waking up. You have to practice journaling, asking yourself probing questions. You acted in a certain way. Ask yourself, why did I act like that? Why did I respond that way? Sometimes you catch yourself doing something that you were even shocked that you could behave that way. Ask yourself, okay, what triggered me? Why did I react or did I respond the way I responded? It helps you to begin to understand your triggers. So you're able to manage them better, or you're able to at least walk away from the things that trigger you and make you act inconsistent to who you are becoming or who you want to become. Ask yourself on a daily basis, 5 minutes to just take stock before you sleep. Ask yourself, did my actions today align with my values? Just cast your mind back on how the day went. Maybe someone that you spoke to abruptly, someone you shouted at the bus stop, whatever. Someone that, angered you and you blasted in some way. Or some choices that you made. Ask yourself, did my actions, my decisions today, did they align with my values? So practice self-reflection. Number two step or practice that you can do is accountability, seeking feedback. Very important. Surround yourself with mentors, with peers who check on you, or that you hold yourself accountable to say, I just want to check in and just give you an update on what's up with me. Because sometimes your mentors may not necessarily check on you, not because they don't want to, but life is lifing. Everybody is going through life, right? So even though they have you at the back of their mind, they may not always check in with you, but you check in because you want to hold yourself accountable. Present a stewardship of yourself. What are the things that are going on in your life? Hold yourself accountable. I want us to have, these accountability sessions, maybe once a month or once a quarter as well, where we can really just talk about some of these things. Find peers who can hold you accountable, who can check on you, who you can also check on. Not just people that cheer you, not just people that nod you, not just people that celebrate you, but people that check on you and people that can call off your bullshit. People that can tell you, this one, you didn't do it well. This one, go back and apologize. People who will tell you the truth. People that will not just tell you what you want to hear. Because on the other side of that discomfort is growth. Number three is continuous learning. Invest in your personal growth. Invest in your personal growth. That's why we always pick books of the month. It's not because we just want to create activity. It's not that. It's just to make sure that if by yourself, with yourself, you may not still have the discipline to be able to pick a book by yourself and commit to it, because you're in a community that gives you that opportunity, that's a reminder there that you should continue to challenge yourself and grow. So read books, take courses, attend seminars, listen to podcasts. Knowledge is your competitive edge. Okay? So stay teachable. Make sure you're learning something new. Ask yourself at the beginning of every month, which part of my life do I want to grow in? Is it my ability to be more authentic, to be more empathetic, to be more emotionally intelligent? Is it my ability to be more patient? Is it my ability to listen more? Those little things go a long way. I'm not saying go and carry encyclopedia in the name of reading everything, big stuff, technical stuff. No, everyday things that just make you become a better person. You're a parent, read something on parenting. Okay? You are a supervisor at work, read something on how to lead people, on how to manage people properly. Just develop yourself all around. You're a wife. Read something on how to be a fantastic wife to your husband, or a husband, be a fantastic husband to your wife. YouTube is there. Like, there are resources there that you can binge on. Every time, when I'm driving, it looks like there's never an idle moment with me. If I'm driving, is it that I'm listening to some message on YouTube, or some prayer, something that I'm just following along with, or something. There's just something to always do. Or sometimes I sit in silence and just meditate. I do that. So stay teachable. Number 4, serve others. Serve others. Volunteer. Mentor others. Pay it forward. Everything you're learning in the Thrive community, pay it forward. Teach somebody. The more you teach people, the more you're learning it, the more you're gaining mastery of it. See, leadership is service. Until you serve, you really cannot really truly emerge as a leader. Leadership is service. Even Jesus washed the feet of his disciples. So who are you not to serve others? Volunteer, serve others, not for any gain, not for what you're going to get from it, but because you want to develop your own leadership ability. And number 5, communicate effectively. Many conflicts that happen in families, in friendships, in businesses, they come as a result of poor communication, as a result of unspoken assumptions and expectations. As a leader, you must be able to articulate your words, your thoughts in words. Don't give silent treatment. Leaders don't do that. Don't keep quiet, expecting the other person to understand what you're going through, or what is going on in your mind, or your expectations. Don't have unspoken assumptions. Okay? As a leader, know how to manage your emotions. Know how to communicate in a way that the next person understands. Know how to speak about your expectations. Know how to negotiate. Listen to other people. Learn to listen deeply more than you speak. And when you speak, speak your truth with grace. Don't be that person that will say, I have to just give you a piece of my mind. Don't be the person that is giving you a piece of your mind every time. Speak the truth with grace. Sprinkle some grace on it, even though it's the truth. And the truth can be hard sometimes. Sprinkle some grace on it. So that when the person is receiving it, they receive it because they know that you have good intentions. You have a good heart. It's coming from a good place. Do you see what I mean? Right? So, my amazing Thrive family, your generation does not need more influencers. And I know that that is the in thing in the world today, influencers. We don't need more influencers. We need men and women of substance. People whose character can be trusted. People whose values can stand firm, even when life tests them. People whose lives inspire others. Those are the people we need. We need more of them, and you are here already. You are the people we're waiting for. You are the people that will make the change that we are asking for. And leadership, again, like I said, if I can reiterate, it's not about title. It's not about competence. It's first about character. It's first about character. So I need you to remember this, that building legacy is not about what you leave for people. It's about what you leave in them. What they remember you for. So my charge for you this September is simple. Choose one area of character to intentionally work on in this month, whether it's integrity, discipline, humility, courage. Think about it. Do your own self-reflection. Identify that one thing. Find a book in that area, if possible. Look for a course in that area. Speak to somebody to hold you accountable in that area. Share it with your accountability partner in the community. All right? Lead from within. build your character daily and watch how your life becomes a light for generations to come. I hope this has been valuable for you. This is where we will wrap it up for today. I hope that everything that I've shared, both from my personal experience and just all that we've talked about today, has been so valuable, and it's something that you can use. It's something that can help you on your own leadership journey. But more importantly, the one that I want you to know that really need you to start doing is begin to think of how you're going to begin to pay it forward. Everything that you're learning, begin to think of how you're going to begin to pay it forward. That one person that you pour yourself into, that you teach what you know, that is you developing your leadership. That is leadership in action. I trust that this has been great. I trust that you're going to, do the most with what you have today. And I will see you in our next live mentoring session. But in the meantime, put your light bulb moment in the chat or go into the group and just drop what it is that came out for you strongly today, and the one step, the one action that you're going to take, as you move along developing the leader that is already in you. God bless you. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the month and, of course, rest of the year. I love you. Take care.